Hello, welcome. So today we're going to be taking a little dive into r/am I the hole. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in digging into with me today and exposing some possible gigantic gaping holes, then please do stick around and enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe, thank you. We are in a heat wave today. Well, we are in a heat wave this week. In fact, it's supposed to get so hot that the school have already warned us, well, both schools, that they might close. So, and that's because obviously here in the UK, we don't have air conditioning anywhere apart from like, I don't know, Tesco. So yeah, the schools are old. Where I live, like really old buildings. They don't have any friggin' air conditioning, and they were built to keep out the cold. So those schools get impossibly hot. So yeah, I really am trying to crunch and record and get it over and done with. So, oh goodness me. What's the weather like where you are anyway? Anyway, quick disclaimer, any opinions that I give on the post we read are just opinions, not facts, do not need to be taken as such. If you have a different opinion, do feel free to leave it in the comments below. Just make sure you're keeping it respectful with anyone. You do not need to be mean just because you do not agree. With that being said, let's get into it then, shall we? So this first one was posted by Smart Lavishness 225. Am I the hole for not backing my wife up after my brother-in-law called her a bad parent? And they have been pegged the butthole. I need to stop saying that. That sounds terrible. Stop saying that, Void. I've said that in another video. I need to stop. My wife and I are both 41 and have an 11-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. Our daughter plays basketball, travel, and our son plays flag football, what is that, in the spring, which is recreational. My wife is not the type of parent who organises our lives around an 8 and 11-year-old sports schedule. And I agree with her on that. We refuse to let youth sports take over all our lives, even if vacations and stuff conflict with that. To be fair, I do understand that. Now, do I think that it's important if your child has a passion to nurture that passion? So if they have a passion for a sport, or if it's like a passion for a craft or whatever, is it important to nurture it? Yes, of course it is. But these sports clubs or whatever that they can be part of can honestly take over. I know that my friend had her kids in football, like a football club, and they would like play, you know, games against other clubs and stuff like that, and it literally started taking over her whole week and weekends. It was crazy, especially when she had 3 of her kids all in different football clubs at different ages, because it goes by like age. And yeah, she was just constantly running here, there, and everywhere. And she was so grateful when the one of them decided that they didn't want to do football club anymore and they weren't enjoying it, because obviously it took a lot of the pressure off. So I understand that in a way, because it can honestly take over. It's a bit of a tricky one, because you're like, oh, when it's your kid, you really want to encourage them when they found something that they are passionate about. But at the same time, it's like, oh my goodness, like we can't do anything because we have to work around this damn club. A couple of weeks ago, we were visiting my wife's sister and her husband for Memorial Day. They live in a state over, so we left on Sunday. My wife and I and my in-laws were talking, and my brother-in-law asked about our son's sports. At some point, my wife said that we missed our son's practice to come over. My brother-in-law kind of started grilling my wife after, saying that she's not teaching him to be a part of a team, being lazy, being a bad parent, etc. I overheard, but I didn't retort because I didn't see the point. What? What do you mean you didn't see the point? Like, you and your wife are both in agreements over this. Why is the wife taking the flak? And, like, at the end of the day, if the brother-in-law's one of those that believes that if you are part of a sport, you should attend every single practice, every single game, and all of that lot, that's fair enough, but that's not going to work for everybody. And that is also fair, especially if the kids are okay with that. When we were driving home the following day, my wife asked me why I didn't back her up. Oh yeah, I'm sure you did think that she forgot about, you know, her brother literally hounding her and calling her a bad parent and all of that awful stuff and lazy and what have you. Yeah, sure she forgot that so quickly, yeah. And I tried to reason with her that she knows I agree with her, so I didn't have to play sidekick in that situation. Yeah, you did. You really should have. You really should have said, well, actually, this was a joint decision, rather than sitting back and just letting her take the brunt. And, you know, just sticking up for your partner. If you have made a decision on the way that you want to parent, and someone is there grilling your spouse about the way you parent, and you are in agreements with your spouse, you should stick up for them and be like, well, actually, no, I believe that it's right that we do it that way. Just because you don't agree, it's not okay to be calling her all those things. She didn't like my reasoning, shocker, and didn't talk to anyone but the kids for the rest of the car ride, basically pretending I wasn't even there. I mean, you may as well not have been. You didn't exactly do anything to help. Am I the butthole? Yes. And then the OP puts, holy crap, you guys, with a sad face. Edit 2. Post is 20 hours old. I'm literally at my hair appointment and you guys are still getting on my case. What the fuck? Yes. Gotta love it when an OP gets all snarky because no one agrees with them. So let's have a look at what the commenters say, shall we? But I'm pretty sure I know what they're gonna say. So, Eugenide says, you're the butthole. Someone calls your wife a bad parent in front of you. You correct them. Loudly. Exactly. Especially if you're in agreements with your spouse. And then Commercial Exotic 2038 says, if you don't, it sounds like you agree with them, especially to your spouse. Edited to add, you are the butthole. And then Cheese and Carb says, love it, especially when it seems like this was a parenting decision that they made together, yet he's happy to let her take all the heat. And then IXZGXZ, sounds like some other Elon Musk would call his kid. That's exactly why he didn't speak up. He didn't want the heat on him. Precisely. And then Eamph says, you're the butthole. If you as a couple made the decision to not let kids' activities run your lives, you need to both own up to that. And even if it was just her choice, why would you let your brother-in-law grill her like that? You need to stand up for your partner in situations like this. Exactly. It's either one, the OP's completely complacent about their partner's feelings. Two, they really don't care and they just didn't want to get the grilling themselves and didn't want to have to look like they were also the person who made this choice. Or three, they were a wet lettuce and were too scared. So I'm not sure which one it is, but you decide. So, next post, posted by Dio Taval. Am I the butthole for asking my daughter to talk to her boyfriend about his behaviour in my kitchen? My daughter has a boyfriend, they're both 18, and he's often over at our house. It was okay at first. I don't mind feeding teens because I'm not a frugal person. Yeah, honestly, feeding, I mean just children in general, takes a very deep wallet sometimes. Oh my goodness. I'm like, where do they put it all? I swear kids are born with hollow legs. That's my theory, you know? But at the same time, it's at least no food goes to waste, you know? I made spaghetti, tacos, chicken, snacks, and other typical home-cooked meals while they were hanging out. But over the last few months, he's started acting in a way as if he lives here, and it honestly feels strange. He simply opens the fridge to examine what's inside without asking whether he may have anything. Few times he is asked with a container already in his hands. He also started making comments to my daughter, but in a way that I can hear them. Like, your mum hasn't made that chicken dish in a while, or I thought there would be pasta tonight. And he really eats a lot. He might finish almost all the cheese, drink the juice, take the last frozen waffles, and then look for something else in the pantry. I feel ridiculous, like I'm counting pieces of food, but it just feels a bit annoying. I didn't say anything to him directly because I didn't want to embarrass him and my daughter. I spoke to her privately and asked her to tell him to behave a little more politely in our house. She got upset and said that I was greedy and making a big deal out of eating. I mean, it's easy to say that when you're not the one buying the food, though. Goodness me. Now I don't know how to feel about it and feel like my daughter sees me in a bad light. Am I the butthole? No, because at the end of the day, at 18, depending on where you live, I understand, obviously, you usually have a job or a part-time job or something. You know, you might have your own money coming in at that point, and it's like, okay, if you want to be eating all the food in my house, trying to, you know, slyly dictate what we make and what I have in the house ready made, you need to be paying towards the food bill. You are legally an adult at that point, and you need to be paying towards the food bill because you don't live here, you know? I've always said I don't mind footing the bill for food if my kids live here past 18, which guaranteed they will. They absolutely will. And I don't mind that because they're my kids. But then if they started having people over a lot, and I was then feeding these people too, especially if they ate a lot, I'd have to then be like, look, you know, this is okay. I don't mind cooking for you all. I don't mind making snacks for you all, but you are going to have to start contributing because I cannot afford this. Food is flipping expensive now. It's crazy. And I just think it's a little bit cheeky to be like, basically trying to request certain food in someone else's household. Now, I think it's great that he feels so comfortable, and obviously that means that the OP is a really lovely, open, and, you know, warming person. Warming? Would that be the right wording? You know what I mean? Like, a warming presence. Like, you go into their house and you feel welcome. Welcoming! There we go. Got there in the end. Like, obviously the OP is a very welcoming person, but you've got to have a boundary and a line, unless you want to be eaten out of house at home. Literally. So let's have a look what the commenters say, shall we? So, Helen Kennedy, 21, says, if he's comfortable enough to request specific meals, he's comfortable enough to hear some basic house rules. Exactly. I think if someone is basically spending the majority of their time at your house, they're not paying rent and they're not paying towards the food, then you've got to put some rules into place, and they're going to have to accept that they're going to have to listen to them and abide by them. And then the OP said, I would be mad about this whole situation if he respected me and my time cooking, buying all of that. I wonder if they meant to say they wouldn't be mad. I don't know. So then Ice Seeker says, your daughter doesn't see the problem because it's not her money, bingo, that was spent to buy the food. She's not the one cooking either. Just like her boyfriend, she's just the recipient. Bet she'll see where you're coming from if she's the one feeding him through her own money and effort. It's about time to set boundaries since your daughter won't help. You should directly talk to her boyfriend. Don't worry about making him feel embarrassed. He definitely should feel some of it so he can stop raiding your kitchen. Exactly. Now, I do think, like, is he actually eating at home? Are his parents like making food available for him? I don't know, but at the same time it's like he is 18, so you could argue that he's legally an adult, so he needs to sort that out himself. It's a tricky one when you think of it in that perspective, isn't it? If it was me, I'd be like, love, are you able to get food? I would just maybe go at it from that direction. Be like, look, I've noticed that you come here and you eat a lot, and I'm worried that you're not able to get food outside of the house or something like that. I don't know how you'd broach it without, you know, feeling like you're shaming him, just in case it actually is that there's something like that going on, that he doesn't have access to food when he's not at your house. But yeah, either way, to save your pocket, you are going to have to at some point go, look, you know, this has got to reel it in a little bit. We have to reel it in. And I would also say to your daughter, look, love, if you don't think that I'm being lazy and selfish, you feel free to cook for him all the time, you know, and see how fast her tune changes, because I guarantee it would. So then, next post, posted by Presentation Fair 794. Am I the butthole for refusing to attend my childhood best friend's destination wedding after they uninvited my wife? Why did they uninvite her? I think that would be the thing that's going to be the deciding factor on whether I think the OP's the butthole or not, because if it turns out their wife is an absolute horror, then I'd get it. I'd get why they uninvited her. My best friend from childhood is getting married. He and his fiancée have been together for about 7 years and have planned a destination wedding. They wanted a smaller, more intimate wedding and decided to combine the bachelor and bachelorette party into a week-long trip. About a year ago, I was told about the wedding and was asked to attend. I was specifically told that both my wife and I were invited. The only thing we would need to pay for was our airfare. Everything else would be covered. Over the last year, there were multiple conversations confirming that both my wife and I would be attending. Based on that, we requested and received paid time off from work, bought plane tickets, and started preparing for the trip. We bought clothes and other things we would need for a week-long destination wedding. About a month and a half before the wedding, my friend told me there was no longer enough space for my wife. Apparently, she had been cut from the guest list and there was only room for me. He also mentioned that numerous other guests were upset. Some people had to pay for their own accommodations elsewhere if they want to attend after previously being told that they would be covered. And some guests had their invitations revoked entirely because they were over capacity. Oh my goodness, I understand when people have to get harsh and kind of like really whittle down their guest list for their wedding because cost or whatever. But how about we do that before we invite people on a destination wedding and let them book tickets and let them book hotels and let them get time off work? Before we go ahead and do that, that's crazy work. They are in the wrong for that. I was honestly shocked. I told him that if my wife couldn't attend, then I wouldn't be attending either. I asked him what happened and why this situation occurred. I wanted an honest explanation. His response was basically that they didn't realise they had a capacity issue until invites were sent out. I asked how that could happen if they already knew the venue capacity beforehand. He refused to answer directly and kept saying that this wasn't about the guests because it's their wedding. Yeah, you can say that, but people are putting a lot of money onto your wedding, my mate. Like, that is a whole lot of money. Destination weddings, I imagine, are not cheap to go to, especially depending on where you're going. And the time people have to take off, this was a week-long event. People had to take off work for, maybe even organise childcare, pay for kennels or catteries to look after their pets, or pet sitters to come to their house to look after their pets. Like, how can you be so blasé about the complete disorganisation of this all that has cost everyone so much money? It's a very, very selfish thing to do, that is, whether it's your wedding or not. I told him that while it is absolutely their wedding and their choice, they had set clear expectations a year in advance and repeatedly confirmed those expectations. Now, after people had spent money, used paid time off, and made plans, they were changing things and expecting everyone to be okay with it. Exactly. He and his fiancée have taken no responsibility for the situation and instead blame the guests for overreacting. He also told me that I was the only one making a big deal about not being able to bring my wife. Bollocks. Either the wife is the only one who's been told they can't come, or they're lying and a lot of people have kicked off. To be clear, I never demanded that they re-invite her. I simply told him that if my wife wasn't welcome, I wouldn't be attending either, exactly, because they've taken off a lot of time together and paid a lot of money to go together. Am I the butthole for being angry about this and refusing to go to the wedding? No, not at all. I would completely get it if they'd said, look, we want to invite you to our wedding, but unfortunately we don't have room for your wife to come. Do you still want to come? I would get that then. I think that's fair because sometimes there just isn't enough room at a wedding for people to bring a plus one. And then the OP then could have gone back to their wife, had a discussion about it. And, you know, honestly, if it was my spouse and they said, look, I've been invited to a wedding, it'll be a week. It's basically a thingy. It's a destination wedding. It's for someone that I have been friends with since childhood. Would you mind if I go? I'd be like, no, go. That's fine. You know, we've had plenty of time to prepare. You go. And you'll have a great time. And I completely understand it. But This is just not on. Inviting her, confirming, reconfirming, giving them a year's notice so that they can book everything up. They pay for everything and then you do this? Pull the rug out from underneath them? No way. I would be doing the same as the OP. I'd be like, yeah, I'm not coming. You've completely screwed us over with this. I am not coming. And then maybe I'd go on a little holiday of my own. You know, hopefully those tickets are refundable and you can go and use that paid time off that you've booked for somewhere else. So down in the comments, Beagley99 says, I would not attend. I would go on a holiday with my wife, use the tickets, but I wouldn't be attending. They can give your seat to someone else. See, you were assisting them, not the butthole. Exactly. And then Impression Accurate 37 says, right, go anyway if it's someplace you want to go, or change the tickets and go have fun and send pics. Exactly. Honestly, I do think when people have a destination wedding anyway, they have to be cognizant of the fact that some people just aren't going to be able to go. And, you know, they can't hold it against them. If someone invited me to a destination wedding, I'd have to be like, sorry, pal, I can't come. I can't afford that. You know, I'd have to have a cat sitter. I'd have to find something to do with the kids. Like, the kids wouldn't be able to come with me, I would be guessing, because obviously already the guest list is small. And that's just not going to work for me. I can't have the kids go somewhere else for a whole week. That's not possible. It's not doable, you know? And then that's on top of all other just day-to-day responsibilities that I have. I'd have to say no, respectfully. I'd have to decline. And people do need to just be mindful of that if they're going to have a destination wedding, you might find that a lot of the people you'd like to invite will not be able to come. Not all of us are rolling in money, you know? Okay then, so next post posted by Recital Funeral Throw. Am I the butthole for prioritising my daughter's recital over a funeral? My daughter, 5 years old, had a dance recital on Saturday. Her dance studio scheduled everything a couple months ago, so my husband and I were prepared to attend. Last Wednesday, my father informed me that his mother-in-law, his wife's mother, had passed away, and the funeral would be on Saturday. He said that he and his wife wanted me to attend it with my family, but they would settle for just me. I'll be honest, I didn't want to go. I didn't have a close relationship with my father's mother-in-law, and my kids saw her once a year at most, but I wouldn't mind attending if it weren't for my daughter's recital. The funeral would take place in a different city, a very short flight away, which my father had offered to cover, so it wouldn't be possible to attend both. I offered my condolences, but said my daughter had a dance recital on Saturday and my family wouldn't be able to attend the funeral. My father said he understood why I couldn't take my children, though his wife was disappointed I wouldn't just tell my daughter's dance studio that there had been a family emergency. I do understand that, but the OP doesn't want to go. You can't force people to go to something like a funeral. I've never actually been to a funeral. No, I tell a lie. I went to a funeral with someone else to support them. But honestly, I'd have rather been anywhere else in the entire world. As awful as that sounds, I genuinely would. I didn't know the person. I felt like I was intruding. And yeah, I would understand why the OP wouldn't want to go. Also, this dance recital has been booked way ahead. So I don't know how important dance recitals are, because I'm not like in the dance scene and I never have been, and neither of my kids are. So I don't know how important it is, but at the end of the day, if the OP wants to go to that and not to the funeral because they don't feel close to the mother-in-law and that, you know, they'd feel weird about it or whatever, or just they don't want to go, they honestly don't have to. And I think the opinions are going to be divided on that, because I feel like some people are going to be like, it was your grandmother-in-law, so you should have gone. And I feel like there's other people that are going to have a completely different opinion. I can see this is going to be divided opinion because I can kind of see from both angles, I suppose. In spite of that, they both thought I should still go on my own. They said that my husband could attend the dance recital on his own, that missing one of my daughter's events when I'm there for everything else wouldn't be a big deal, and that she's so young that she probably wouldn't remember it anyway. Disagree. Hard disagree. I remember being in first school And I think I would probably only been about 5, 6. And it was like the play, we were doing the nativity. I can't remember what I was. I just remember that I was piss farting about on the stage. But I do remember my dad being there. I don't remember my mum being there though, to be honest. I don't think she was. But I remember my dad being there for sure. She'd have more recitals in the future, but the funeral would only happen once. I stood my ground. Saturday came, I attended my daughter's dance recital. Both my father and his wife were radio silent all day, and I chose not to bother them. My father finally called me yesterday and we had an argument. He said his wife was inconsolable because her mother loved me and my children, and it broke her heart that we weren't there to say our goodbyes. He also said he was disappointed at how dismissive I'd been of his wife and her family, and he couldn't believe I'd refused to make such a small sacrifice for someone who would drop everything to do the same for me. I continue to stand by what I did. I understand her passing was sudden and the funeral was rushed, but I had made a commitment to my daughter and I wanted to honour it. My father said she should be old enough to understand that her mum had something more important to do. 5-year-old would not understand that. 5-year-old would just be like, I am absolutely gutted that my mum didn't turn up to my dance recital. 5-year-old is not going to understand the nuances of other people's emotions around someone attending something that they didn't want to attend and vice versa. All they're going to see is mum didn't turn up for me. So that I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Am I the butthole? So yeah, I can see from both sides. I see being upset that someone didn't turn up and show up to support you, that you wanted to be there. I completely understand that. I think people do need to sort of understand, though, that funerals are not something that everyone likes to go to. Funerals are not seen as the same by everyone. For me, I personally would prefer to say my goodbyes privately. I am not someone who likes to be emotional in front of people, not gonna lie. I am emotionally constipated. I will very much admit that. I will hold my hands up. I do not get emotional in front of people. And also being around people when they are emotional makes me very uncomfortable because I'm like, I don't know how to human right now. I'm not sure what to say to comfort you, and I'm worried I'm gonna say the wrong thing. Like, I get very worried that I'm gonna accidentally like trip up and say the wrong thing. I'm very socially awkward, okay? So for me, funerals are not something I really attend. I don't go to. I'd rather say my goodbyes in my own way. And you know, I think people are very accepting of that as well. And I'm very fortunate, touch friggin' wood, to not have needed to really attend any funerals. I've not really had any close family like that pass, because obviously I'm not really close to any of my wider family, like cousins, aunts, uncles. Haven't seen any of them since I was like, I don't know, 8. So, you know, I've not had relationships with any of them like that to be involved like that. But yeah, so I get it from both sides. And also I get that the grandfather might not see his granddaughter's dance recital as super important, but the parents do. The mum does. So, yeah. I think overall I'm leaning to not the butthole. Yeah, I think that's where I'm leaning. Not the butthole, but I understand why the family are upset at the same time. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going with it. Because you can't force someone to attend things like that, and it doesn't make them an awful person if they don't, you know? So, let's have a look at what the comments say, shall we? Now, I must say the comments, as I predicted, are very divided. So I'm going to go through a few of them. So this first one was posted by Affectionate Smoke 777. Funerals are for the living. You go to support your loved ones who are still on this earth. If you don't have a close relationship with your dad and his wife, I totally understand not going. But if you overall have a good relationship with your dad and his wife, I think you made the wrong decision. Grief is hard, and when you feel the people you care about don't care about you in return, it just amplifies the grief. And then Buddha176 says, well said. Think there's a lot of nuance to make a not the butthole, you're the butthole decision. We don't know much about the relationship. Definitely could be an everyone sucks here situation. I don't think it's an everyone sucks here. I think there's no winners here. There's no winning here. No matter what you do, someone's going to be upset, and the OP just made the decision that felt right for them. And then OK Refrigerator 6681 says, not the butthole. Is she so young that she probably won't remember it anyway, or old enough to understand that her mum had something more important to do? Which is it? Exactly. And then the OP said, yeah, that stood out to me too. I think my father's expectations of me are unrealistic at times, so I try to pay attention whenever I think it might be extending to my children. And then Persephone456 says, slightly you're the butthole. I actually think it's fine for you to miss the funeral, but it sounds like you didn't make any effort to show you care. You could have sent flowers or a fruit basket, called your stepmother, sent a nice note about what a great lady your stepmother's grandmother was and how you're so sad to miss the funeral, etc. I think if you had put in a little effort to show you care, it would have gone a long way. Edited to add, not the butthole, based on OP's response to my comment. So yeah, obviously, I think that's the same as I feel. If you didn't go, that's fine. But did you make sure that you reached out to say that I am here for you? And you have my condolences, and I will be here to support you outside of the funeral, if that makes sense. So the OP then says, I called her and offered my condolences. I did apologise profusely when I said my family wouldn't attend the funeral. So then adorable emote 429 says, not the butthole. For a flight away for a step grandma that saw you annually, it's really up to you to decide how close you were to her and if it's warranted. It sounds like it wasn't. I don't appreciate when my parents insist I treat step family differently than the relationship realistically is. It feels like they expect me to be performative. Exactly, and that's the way that I see it. It's like if the OP did go, it's not from wanting to be there. It's a performative thing. And yes, you can argue, like the first commenter did, that obviously it's to support the other family that are still here and not so much for the grandmother, but I struggle with that concept personally. I'm like, if I'm going to a funeral, it's because of the person and my connection to them. If I don't have a connection to them, I feel very disingenuous and uncomfortable being here. But of course, that's just my view. And everyone else might have a very different way of looking at it. So the OP says to that, I never even saw her as a step-grandparent to begin with. I never felt we were close, but the flight part really wouldn't have bothered me, especially since I wouldn't pay for it. So yeah, I mean, like I say, it's up to you whether you see this as a butthole, not the butthole, I don't know. I think not the butthole, personally, but I understand why everyone else would be upset. If anything, I'd say it's more of a, you can't win. There are no winners here, nobody won here. Nobody's the butthole, but nobody won. I don't know, what do you think? I'm confused on this one, I must say. So, last post, posted by SameBroccoli7863, am I the butthole for grounding my son after he got kicked out of class for refusing to sit next to somebody? My son is a sophomore in high school. About a week ago, they did a lab for his chemistry class and he was paired up with this one girl. I feel like I've heard him talk about this girl before with his friends, calling her ugly and saying she smells like feces. If you've heard him talking about her like that, why have you not stepped in and said, that's not okay? He was paired up with this girl, and while they were doing the lab, my son was apparently standing so far from her that he couldn't actually even help her in the lab. Eventually, the teacher caught on, and when she told him to move closer, he said no, saying she stinks. The teacher threatened to write him up if he didn't, and my son still refused to, so he got kicked out of class. I got the call, and when he came home, I took his phone for A, not listening to the teacher, and B, publicly making fun of her, presumably in front of the whole class. I will say, I've met this girl before for something else school-related in the past, and it's true that she doesn't smell the best. But my sentiment is the same. But my husband and my son think I'm making a big deal out of things. Am I the butthole? Absolutely not. It was really unfair the way he reacted to her. And then saying all of that in front of the class, presumably where she could hear also, it's not okay. If he really had a problem with the pairing because of obviously saying that she has a really bad odour, he should have gone to the teacher and said, look, can I have a private word? I cannot work with her. She, like, there's a really bad smell. I think someone teacher-wise needs to pull her aside and have a word with her. Something, at least, just something, and have a little bit of, like, compassion for the poor girl who sounds like, unfortunately, her needs are being neglected at home. I don't know how old these kids are, so I don't know how old she is. It could be that her parents aren't providing the facilities. It could even be that she's too young to do it for herself. Either way, the way the son's acting like and saying she's ugly, she stinks. I'm sorry, it's nothing to do with the fact that she has a bad odor, that he doesn't want to work with her. And I get that, not wanting to, you know, be really close to someone who has a really bad odor. It can be really off-putting, and I understand that. But sensitivity, for fuck's sake, come on. Like, and calling her ugly, like, that's completely uncalled for. What has that got to do with the price of eggs? You know? So no, completely agree. So, down in the comments, Nugget600 says, not the butthole. Your son is a bully and your husband is enabling his behaviour. Yes, it kind of tells you where he gets it from, doesn't it? I feel really sad for the girl. Same. Boy Mama Bear 1995 says, not the butthole. Your son has no idea what her home life is like, which probably is why she smells differently. It sounds to me like she doesn't have any support at home as far as access to a washer, an ability to clean herself, and calling her ugly is totally uncalled for. Exactly. My sentiments exactly. And a note to add, if I was this OP, I would be getting in touch with the school. Maybe even getting in touch with like child services and saying, look, this has happened. I also have met this child myself and can attest to the fact that, you know, they are obviously not able or being given the ability to keep themselves clean. Someone needs to look into this. Like, somebody needs to look into this at home, because something's going on here that's not okay. You know, children don't just come out the house choosing to smell. A lot of children are very aware if they do, and they are very embarrassed by it. And even if they're not aware, believe you me, the schoolmates are going to happily make them aware, clearly. And it's just going to be torture for them, bless them. So someone needs to get involved and find out, why is this child coming to school with such a bad odour, you know? Okay then, so I think that's where we're going to leave it today. My goodness, I have rambled today. 41 minutes I've been rambling for. It's going to be a longer one. Even when I've edited it down, I know it's going to be a longer one today, so I don't know. Enjoy, I suppose. But yeah, if you made it all the way to the end with me, then I appreciate you very, very much. If you give a little like, subscribe, notifications on, that is your initiation into the Coven of Void. Welcome. Don't forget to leave an offering of a comment for Big Al. Whatever it is you're doing for the day, I hope you have a really good rest of the day. If you are in the UK, I hope you're keeping cool somehow. Don't know how. If you figure a way how, let me know.